Ciao cartogatori! Today we are talking about world building. If you are new, hi, welcome! I'm Ren, I'm a professional cartographer and illustrator. I create digital maps and content for tabletop games. My channel is all around map making, digital drawing and RPGs. So if you're interested in the topic, just leave a follow. And yes, now... Recently, I've asked you what you wanted to see on this channel, and your answer was pretty clear to me. So let's talk about world building.
Let's go!
World building is the process of creating and shaping an entire world, including the geography, the cultures, the history, and the art of world building is taking all the aspects and create something which is realistic and believable. And you may ask yourself, I just want to draw maps. Do I need to know all this stuff? Well, the answer is in this video, since here we are talking about the 5 fundamentals I believe you need to know before starting with fantasy maps. And in this video we'll get to know why on a deeper level you need to know something more about world building. Talking about world building, we got 2 different schools of thoughts. On one side, people believe you need making everything in a correct way, realistic and believable, and strictly stick to that. It could mean something like not thinking about floating mountains or glowing red rivers, underworld hurricanes, or anything else that may shift from what we know for sure. In the other hand, we have a school of thugs where you really need to go heavily with magic and everything must be top notch and everything should be like never seen. Well, I don't disagree with any of them, but I believe the best approach is to take both the visions and mix them to create a balanced and believable world. And why so? If you stick on the too realistic side, you may end up with nothing really interesting or out of your imagination. While if you rely too much on magic, you may end up to be unable to provide a worthy explanation of your words, which may be confusing for your readers or your players. If you think about it, mixing the 2 schools of thoughts will also help us to escape from cliches. So please stop doing archipelagos with dragons just in the corner of your maps. Seriously. Stop it. Unless that's necessary for your story. Just saying. So now you have a basic idea of what world building is and why you need it. Just mind you, this video ain't easy for me. There is something I hate about YouTube is people wasting my time. Sometimes it happens to open a video because I'm looking for an information and I end up with listening minutes and minutes of notions I don't need just because of watch time. So why is this video hard for me? There is so much you can learn here. There is a lot you can find for free on blogs and YouTube and forums and other social media platforms. So for this recording, I try to give you my own perspective and the way I build maps, the way I use the information I know in a decisional way, and that's why I made the script, which I'm not sticking to, so sorry, I'm trying my best. Rivers. Rivers flow downhill, starting from mountains and islands. They make their way to lakes and seas. Basic, right? But that's an information we already know. So I'm giving you an additional point of view to understand how this information can be useful to draw a better map. Did you know that rivers can change course over the time? This leads to meandering rivers and the creation of oxbow lakes. Right, that's another information you may know, but stay with me. As rivers erode their banks, they form curves that eventually shape the landscape. This means a river path isn't fixed and it can influence where settlements form. In fantasy, rivers can be more than natural features. They might scary legends like being haunted or having healing powers. This should add a depth layer to your map because it will explain why certain villages or roads exist in the proximity. Because we know farms, villages, cities, settlements, they grow around resources, and water is the main valuable resource. If you think about it, keeping in mind that rivers can change during the time, causing problem to the creatures relying on them. In terms of storytelling, this might suggest a whole town have migrated, so you might end up having a ruin instead of a village. And as I mentioned in the first video of this how to draw a fantasy map basic tutorial, storytelling is an essential point. We are getting back to this point soon, so keep in mind rivers are not just a feature. Okay, I promise I won't be this talkative on each point, so let's go further. And speaking about rivers and speaking about the importance of resources, what's the next favorite feature for fantasy maps? Mountains and altitude. Mountains are formed by tectonic plates pushing against each other. And that's the common notion we know, but what else is important about mountains? A mountain range can separate regions, they can separate cultures, they can provide an advantage as an additional point of view to protect yourself from threats, but also to be more aware of danger, as you can spy your enemy and your neighbors from this high. Just a saying, I won't do it. I lie. I will do it.
For sure.
So we got this so far, but why should I think about mountains and altitude when I draw maps? Climatic differences, that's the thing you need to keep in your mind. Think about the rain shadow effect. I'm trying to simplify that. One side may be lush and green, and the other side can be dry and desert. This contrast can dictate where people are going to settle. It can dictate the kind of creatures that are living in the proximity. The change of climate can also change the pattern and the behavior of those creatures and those humans. I'm not going to explain rain shadow effect in detail because you can find lots of resources about it, but basically the heat is rising, creating moisture, it's raining, the rain does drop on a side and make the surrounding lusher, and only partially this heat will fall with rain on the other side. So you don't necessarily have a desert, could be a valley or a rocky area. Just play with this notion because it could be interesting, especially in a situation we are going to explain later, because I need you to get each notion step by step to understand the whole concept. So bear with me. As we mentioned rivers, we are talking now about mountains because mountains also are
valuable
resources. You can find mines with minerals, can also offer protection for lush valleys. It means more resources, crops, more civilization, and so you can have trade routes on your map. Just a saying. Ending this paragraph, mountains are not just separators, they are not just natural boundaries, they are resources, they are protection. They are a reason to settle in. It could be something really thematic as fishing and fishes. So let's see ocean currents and coastal features. That would be the title. We are speaking of resources. Resources can determine the meaning behind the location you draw on your map. Some resources like fishing are strictly attached to a particular area like seas, lakes, major rivers, and it can change on a base of multi-factors like climate, altitude, or biomes, and the weather. That's amazing. There is so much to play with. But let's stick to coastal settlements. They are known for fishing and trade routes, and it's really common in fantasy maps to see cities on the coast, literally on the coast, on the very edge. Please don't do it. Don't do it because I can understand it on a large scale, and everything is so tiny we cannot have a realistic icon. It will make sense to have an icon on the edge of the coast representing the harbor, but if you make a close-up on a region or for a specific portion of the coast. Make sure you place your cities and your arbors more inward, maybe protected from a bay or maybe protected from a river, but just inward. Don't leave people die on the coast. Give them protection, pretty please. And why I'm telling this? Because of the introduction of this video. We need to find a good balance between what doesn't exist in reality and is pretty tied to magic and what is believable and realistic. It can offer more immersion to your stories, which can be books or games. So we've spoken a lot about rivers, where they born, the importance they have as a resource, but if I'm talking about ocean currents and coastal features, it's because there is something more which can change the aspect of our maps that you need to know. Ocean currents are massive flows of water that move through the oceans and they influence the climate. We know we got currents in the ocean and we know they bring cold from the poles to the equator and they move the heat from the equator to the poles. And they just circle and change the environment and make catastrophes, but also affect the story you are telling with your map. So I'll stay short on this, but geographically nearby warm currents, we might have lusher vegetation, and this might suit more for agriculture, and the areas nearby the cold current could be more barren and desolated and just freaking cold. Now you know a basic knowledge of how currents are changing the world. You might be thinking, do I really need to know all of this for drawing maps? Well, yes and no. I'm telling you what. If you stop for a second and you think about everything now you know, and you combine your knowledge about the sediments from the rivers and the rain shadow effect, and you also think about the currents, this knowledge helps you make informed decisions. You can quickly understand what kind of location you may have on your map. It helps you not getting stuck. What kind of location can I have here? What should I draw? The nature itself is telling you what possibilities you have, and that's something you can always rely on. That's magic. And speaking of magic, you can of course mix with more lore-driven reasoning, because again, if you understand the geography and the patterns from our nature, you can easily decide where to place your settlements. It could be human civilization, it could be different creatures. So yes, you need to know it, but no, you don't need to stick entirely on it. But I know I'm a PT explaining stuff, so if something is unclear and you want to make questions, or if you know more than I do, which I hope so, please leave a comment and let me know what your questions are or where I said my BS. Eventually, because again, I'm just an illustrator. I haven't studied geography and biomes for my whole life. I've just got to know information I find useful for my maps. What kind of process I leave in my head when I decide where to place location. So point 4, we've spoken about cold and warm currents and how they affect the climate. So point 4 is about climate and biomes. We already know that forests and deserts and tundras, each one of them hosts a different ecosystem. How can we use this information to make better fantasy maps? Yes, that's something we start talking about in the river section. As the rivers are changing, it is a mistake and a loss not thinking about the ecosystem as something that may change. It is not static, it's not unchanging. It changes. It changes with seasons, with currents, with wars, magical events, natural or unnatural reasons. And that's an information that just blows my mind because it gives you the opportunity to play with special locations. Just to give you an example, think about a lush forest, right? It could be from a magical event We all love magic distractions, and this heaven may have left a barren circle in the middle of the forest. Or it could be a never-ending night, which is not allowing the trees to nourish themselves with the sun, so the plants are dying, the animals are moving away, people are migrating. Events like this can change the climate and the biomes, and this can be shown in your map. So this kind of change can cause microclimates change. Please bear with me, because we need to connect what's being told about mountains to understand this particular node. Do you remember the rain shadow effect? It is where mountains block moist air, creating dry condition on one side and wet condition on the other. This information is just a piece of the puzzle. It doesn't always tell you what is on one side on the other side, but it tells you the pattern of nature. And the pattern is what you need to learn to properly understand all of this. Understanding the climate of a region. You should consider latitude and longitude. Ain't easy. The latitude is how far to the north or far to the south is a location, so on a vertical space. And the longitude, how far in the east or the west that location is. And if you think about latitude and longitude and the ocean currents and the rain shadow effects, it of course leads you to microclimates. So think about mountains range. A south-facing slope might receive more sunlight and be warmer and drier, while a north-facing slope, which stays cooler and more shaded, it leads to different plants and animal wildlife. Small differences like this can make your map more interesting and give your storytelling much more solid background. Let's say we have a village grown beside a river, and this river changed and dried up, and maybe now we have a crater or a swamp, and that village now might shift their culture. They can start praising a god to receive beneficial rains. It is all connected, and all details like this can make your story and your map richer. And since we're here, yes, let's go to the next point: cultural and political boundaries. We've seen it with rivers. Borders can shift. Territories can change due to war, natural, unnatural events. They can change for magical threats, and illustrating the borders that, yes, basically they can be just simple lines, will also tell a story. Boundaries can change for many reasons. It could be natural, unnatural, magic. It could also be cultural. Let me give you an example. Picture this. We have village 1. It is situated by the river and is thriving on fishing and agriculture. They are crafting nets and growing crops in the fertile soil. So village 1. Now imagine to cross the river. You got village 2, and maybe is on a rocky hillside. Village 2 has less arable fields. Its population relies on mining. They can have a mountain giving them protection. They can be skilled with stonework. So 2 different locations just divided by a river with 2 different resources. These villages rely on each other. When village 1 faces flooding, they trade with village 2 for tools. In winter, village 2 depends on village 1 for food, because maybe the hunting is difficult because of the cold. And this difference could translate in a dispute between the 2, but in reality they are somehow cooperating and finding their unique balance. So they are split by nature because a river is telling them apart, and they also belong to 2 different empires, so maybe 2 different cultures and 2 different religions. There is a lot we can tell with the river. We got these 2 villages, and their leaders can come together to negotiate. They might establish new boundaries that reflect their respect. And this is just an example of how boundaries can be geographical but also be political and cultural. Let's talk about change. Maps do tell a story. story. Now imagine this. We got this holy river separating village 1 who worships nature and village 2 who worship the sun. Maybe a severe drought can force the two villages to collaborate for survival. They can build a bridge across what it was the river. They can eventually become a new city, and this city can feature shrines to nature. On one side, it can have sun temples. Over the time, the two villages can unite and create a new, unique religion. They can create a new culture, changing the boundaries. We don't have village 1, village 2 anymore. This example should illustrate how geography and culture are linked, and it's amazing. Those connections are everything. Remember that every feature, it could be a river, a mountain, or a bridge, it holds the potential to be a good story. Mind you, this still is a video about drawing fantasy maps, and I hope you can see the connections, because if you remember from the first video of this series, making fantasy maps is about clarity, telling a story, and trusting the process. Make sure to check out my playlist with the whole series about making fantasy maps. I also share videos of my drawing with the full process from sketches. I hope this world building insight helped you, because it's not only about geography, it's about lore, it's about stories. Think about it when you draw your next map. Speaking of which, I start sharing my maps. You can support me for free by liking this video or just leaving a comment, pretty please. You can subscribe to my Patreon, where you can join for free or as a paid member. And I rely on my drawings to stay alive, literally. Thank you for staying with me till the end. See you next time. Ciao cartogratori!